Hi, everyone. This is Zulie Rane. She is one of my favorite writers on Medium, and I asked her for a quick chat because identifies, I believe, as bisexual. Is that right? Do you use any other words as well?
I go with like queer because I've never really understood the difference between bi and pan. Yeah, bi is as good as anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. I do it the same way. I always say that I'll use bi in non-queer spaces, and then in queer spaces, I tend to use pan because you don't want to have to explain that you're not attracted to kitchen appliances,
Yeah.
like outside
Yeah.
of. Zulie, you've been writing on Medium since what is it,
2018, September
2018?
2018. Yeah, nearly 3 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it seems like there's the occasional article that touches on queer topics, but that isn't necessarily your whole brand or anything even remotely like that. And I just had a handful of questions that I wanted to ask, and it's going to be a really chill conversation. But I think my audience is going to be particularly interested in how you balance and the ways in which you let yourself engage with your queer identity, in
Mhm.
addition to like being aware of how you're taking up space in certain spaces, and honestly, just as someone in a straight passing relationship, like where you do allow like gender norms to affect the way that you present. An example that I always give is my partner and I got married 2 years ago now, almost.
Mhm.
This month on the 20th, it'll be our 2 year anniversary. And we had like a church wedding, and I was in like a ball gown dress, and it was very like everything that you would imagine from this. Like we looked so straight. It was
The
hilarious.
heteros. Yeah.
So we'll chat a little bit about things like that too, because there is some stuff that's still fun to play with, but you don't want to feed into that kind of culture either. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, for sure.
how do you yourself define bisexuality? Because it's different for everybody.
I have never come across like a gender configurate, like any kind of person that I would not be attracted to based purely on how they identify with their gender. I crush very easily, so I've crushed on a lot of different people, and I've never once felt like, okay, that person has a vagina or that person identifies as gender fluid. Not into that. And as far as I can tell, that makes me bisexual.
I love it. Yeah, definitely. One of my best performing articles is like, I use bi and pan, and that might be problematic because
Mm,
of this. There's this history of bi erasure, and there's this idea that pansexuality came out of a misunderstanding of what bisexuality was. I don't know why it's performing so well because I was very confused when I wrote it. I was trying to make sense of all the different words, but I think that's something amazing about sexuality in general is even like a straight person might not think of straight the same way that everyone else does. So
yeah.
I appreciate your openness and your willingness to define what it means to you.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Like, I read a tweet the other day around pride. It was talking about that. It's so hard, right? Because I use queer to identify myself as when I'm around people who I just want to be like, I'm not straight.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I am. But obviously, queer is like a really harmful slur to a lot of people who grew up earlier or around the same time I did, and it was in that context. And somebody was saying, "Oh yeah," some I had a conversation with this guy who was saying that he's bisexual or she's bisexual, and they meant it in a way that they sometimes feel like a man and sometimes feel like a woman, like literally bisexual. And it just we all use words so differently. It depends so much on the context. I thought that was really interesting.
That is really interesting. When I was explaining ace to my husband, that was his initial reaction was like, well, no, the scientific like definition of being asexual is not having the organs or something.
Yeah,
I'm not a
yeah,
science
yeah.
human. But I mean, and he quickly grasped the concept when I was explaining it to him. But it is an interesting it's interesting how humans need to select words that already exist
Mm,
in order to make sense of what they're trying to. And so queer, I think partially um the reason why we're sort of reclaiming it, or it's not so much a slur anymore for those of us who are comfortable using it, it's that idea of playing with a word that we've taken and twisted. And it's just human vocabulary and language is so strange. um,
yeah. there's so much subtext to every word that people choose to identify themselves or identify somebody else. It's wild.
It would be really cool if we could just like make up new words without any etymology. Uh,
Yeah.
and just be able to throw out like one of my favorite ones. And this is not completely accurate because when you said that you crush really easily, it reminded me of the idea of squishing on someone. Have you heard this before?
No, that's new to me.
So a crush is being romantically and or sexually attracted to somebody. A squish, and I think I squish really easily. A squish is like you so badly want to be friends with somebody. So it's a
Oh,
little
I
bit more
love that.
platonic, but
Yeah.
it's like getting a crush on someone, but it's I like because I also crush easily, but I think I have a little bit of a harder time than most differentiating between platonic feelings and like romantic feelings. And when I learned what a squish was, I was like, oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Like I just want to be
Yeah.
around someone. And that's kind of a fun, like it's not related to anything else. I wish that we could do that more as like a
Yeah.
populace. It's just
Baggage free words to describe new experiences. Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny that you mentioned that because that's kind of how I came to realize that I was bi, was because I was like, why are there so many women that I'm like obsessed with becoming their friends? Could it be it's actually something else? And of course it was for me.
yeah, so that was actually going to be my next question was like and this can be really personal for a lot of people, so if you don't want to be specific, don't feel like you need to be, but do you remember when you sort of started to figure out that you were also romantically sexually attracted to women?
I wish I had like an aha moment. I never really did. It kind of, I don't even remember what year it was that I realized I wasn't straight. I guess because I don't want to blame the media, but I do feel like a lot of relationships, a lot of female relationships are packaged up as friendships or like jealousies. And it wasn't that I wanted to have, I wasn't staring at that girl's shiny hair because I wanted to have it. It was because I really liked her and I wanted to be with her in a way I didn't really understand. So I translated that into like friendship, jealousy, whatever other emotion. And in college, I was friends with a girl who figured out that she was a lesbian, a person who figured out that they were non-binary. And I guess when they were kind of going through their identity shifts, how they came to think of themselves, I was thinking, wait, I wanted to touch girls' tongues when I was 6. I always say like, oh, I've never, everybody's got a little bit of gay in them, but maybe not. Maybe it's just me, or and I think it was just a process of just figuring it out along the way that it wasn't just friendship, that it wasn't just everybody has a bit of gay in them.
I think that's so common. I remember even up until college thinking, and I even when I was 18 to 22 and I was out and bi and like used those words, I still thought that no one was completely straight. Like it was something that like I could not wrap, and I still have a hard time, which is really bad, but I still have a hard time wrapping my mind around the idea that people can genuinely only be attracted to like one gender. Poof, like my
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very hard for me. And I learned to kind of not say it so much because it's I can see how it would be upsetting because it's the same like the same people who don't understand how we can be attracted to all genders.
Mhm.
Like it's the same kind of negative vibe when you're like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
But I think that
Yeah.
process is really common.
Yeah. My husband is, I think, possibly one of the few 100% straight people I've met. And I remember like I've always been able to tell which women I'm attracted, or back then I thought I was thinking which women are most attractive and which men are most attractive, and I just thought everybody could do that.
Mhm.
And then I was asking him like, "Oh, Tom, which of your guy friends do you think is the most attractive?" And he was like, "I don't know. How would I know?" And I was like, you don't tabulate their like features. You don't understand like the attractiveness. Like, how do you not do that?" And that was also looking back probably one of the clues that, because I just assumed everybody felt like like everybody can be attracted to anyone, and that was just how things were.
I know and it is so out of the LGBT population, over 50% are bi. And then
Really?
that number, yeah. So
Oh
we're
wow.
we're sort of the silent majority. In the video, I'll link everything down below / in the article. It'll be nice and linked. But so we are the silent majority of the LGBT population. I say silent because so many of us do end up in hetero presenting relationships. And so a lot of people will decide, once they're in those relationships, like once you know, okay, I'm monogamous, I'm with this partner that is a different gender than me, I'm going to look like I look straight to everybody else. I'm not going to try to participate anymore. I'm going to take myself out of a lot of queer spaces and situations. I had a lot of internalized biphobia, and that was something that I dealt with genuinely up until I was out of college when I started to really work on that. So I wanted to ask, like, did you struggle with any of those kind of thoughts, or how do you decide what spaces you want to be part of? And I guess, how do you sort of make your queerness known in the spaces that you do want to be in so that everyone feels comfortable? Because I don't know if you feel this way, but I always feel like I need to drop that I had a crush on a girl at some point or something, so that people know that I'm not some straight person at Pride just getting drunk and having fun.
Yeah, it's tough. It's actually something that I have tried to work out, because, okay, this is probably going to be super problematic. I've always probably wrongly thought of the bisexuals as like the less of the LGBTQs. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, that's what we're taught. It's not problematic because it's real. That's what we get told, and that's how we're talked about.
And it is hard because, like, I'm never going to be assaulted in the street for holding hands with my partner. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to know what it's like, because I don't only, like, I'm not only married to a cis het man, but I also look very conventional. Like, I look like a normal, what we consider to be just like a normal straight woman. And it's been to the point where I'm like, should I get one of those little, like, you know how on TikTok, a lot of bi women are getting this little eyebrow. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Or like, should I get a buzz cut? Like, how am I going to let people know just by looking at me? I actually spent a lot of time on Pinterest, like looking at, what do bi women wear? What's their fashion? Like, how do I identify as that visually? Because I love to dress very femininely, and I worry that makes me look straight. It's such silly things to worry about, but it's hard, I guess, is the answer. I never know. I never want to speak up because I feel like I've never experienced real discrimination based on my sexual orientation. And I probably will never experience a lot of the worst of what I know people face. So I never want to speak up and say, yeah, I also am a gay, because I feel like I don't really have that place. I don't know. How do you deal with it?
So, and again, this is something fairly new. So I started working on my like the internalized biphobia after college. So I was out to my partner. And I say this is one of the ways that I try to dip into the I'm queer with people who wouldn't know, is I use partner most of the time rather than husband. Not all the time, but and Tony, my husband, has asked me a couple times if I'm trying to trick people. He's like, do you say partner so that they assume that you're with a woman until they meet me? Like, is that a thing? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing that subconsciously. Like, I don't know if it's a way to be like, I want them to be guessing, and not to it, just to see if they're going to assume that it's a man, but I also just genuinely prefer the word partner because I view us as a partnership. And so that's one of those question marks of, I really don't know why I do that, but I know that it's more comfortable for me a lot of the time. So we met, he literally moved me in to my freshman dorm, and then within 2 months we were monogamous, dating each other.
Wait, was this before you knew you were bi?
No, so I've known since I was like 14.
Okay, right. Okay.
But that's a good question. So we got together, he moved me in, we got together, and I, before dating him, was I'm going to be in every LGBT organization. I'm going to be in the Gay Straight Alliance. I'm going to be one of the loudest people on campus, vocally opposing any sort of bi erasure, not knowing that, like, my own internalized biphobia was like getting stronger by the minute. And because I started dating this guy, I was like, oh, I'm going to make everyone uncomfortable if I'm at any of these meetings. And so I self-excluded all throughout undergrad. It was hard. And so I wasn't, and I love the friends I made in college, but I think I could have made so many more friends that more closely aligned with, not aligned with my values, because that's not inaccurate. Like, my friends are amazing, but I think it would have been really helpful to have queer, like, more vocally queer friends. And I didn't purposely seek out those people the way I think I would have had I not been in a hetero-presenting relationship so early on in school. It's always weird to talk about this too, because I don't want to ever make it sound like I'm not amazingly happy and lucky to be with my partner. But That's
It's just such
how
a,
I dealt with it, kind of, was I shrugged.
yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. Your story is actually, I mean, I wish I'd known that I was bi sooner because I think it would have answered a lot of questions I had growing up that made no sense to me at the time. But I started dating my slight segue. I also love the word partner for a lot of different reasons. First of all, I think it's nice to normalize it so that when somebody uses partner, you don't immediately be like, oh, they're not straight. They're using the word partner. Or, I mean, I guess we're bad examples of that because we're not straight, but you can use it to normalize heterosexual looking relationships. And so I called Tom my partner because we basically got married at first because he wanted to move over to the States, which is, really a lot easier if you're married. But I didn't feel like a wife. So we were and we've been dating for 8 years at this point, nearly. So partner just made a lot more sense. Okay, segue over. I met Tom, maybe like I moved to the UK and I met him 2 days before classes started. He was like my college dad, which is basically the same thing as like a big or a little in a sorority or a fraternity, I guess. And we started dating, and now we're husband and wife partners. And I wish, I don't know. I don't think I ever had any plans to join any of the LGBTQ communities on campus because I didn't even know at that point. But I do feel, looking back, I almost feel like not resentful because I love Tom. I'm so happy with him. But also, I wish I'd had more of a chance. I wish I hadn't settled down so quickly. I don't know. It's hard.
I think that's a question that anyone who gets married fairly young probably would bring up, is just like a little bit more room to experiment and play and like figure out, have that past, so that the present can be even stronger. But I remember when I came out to Tony, I think I came out within the first 2 months of us dating because I did want it to be a thing. Like I wanted him to know so that it wasn't like a surprise if we broke up and I started dating a woman, or like if something about my past came up, he wouldn't be like, oh my God, which I don't think. And he responded fine. He had questions, but it wasn't, I think the fear is always either the immediate request will be like, let's have a threesome then, or it'll be like an actual, oh, that's not real. Like, what are you talking about? You must be gay. Or something like that. And luckily for me, he did neither. Do you remember if at any point you had to have like an actual coming out conversation with Tom?
I think he might have suspected before I did, actually. Certainly when I like officially sat us down and I was like, Tom, I've got some news. He was very cool with it. I don't think he even had any questions. He was just like, okay. I think he might have been like, we're still dating, right? I was like, yeah, of course. But other than that, I don't think there was really he was very cool with it. As I guess if he had sat down to me and been like, Zulie, I'm heterosexual. And it was about a similar level of reaction.
I wonder sometimes too, if it's easier for women. And I say that I know for sure it is, but I say this because I know an older guy who is married to a woman. And so he just doesn't identify as bisexual anymore. And I realize that your past does not define your present. Like it is possible to just genuinely not be the sexuality that you were 10 years ago. But I wonder sometimes if that is a privilege, one of the few privileges that comes with being a woman, of being able to be open with your partner about that kind of thing and not be scorned. Like I think a lot of het women have a harder time dealing with a bisexual or queer partner than cis men do. And part of it is that sexualization. And this idea, I feel like there's this idea that like everyone eventually is going to be attracted to a man somehow, right? So it's like, if you're a guy and you're bi, you'll be gay. And if you're a woman and you're bi, you'll be straight. Like, that's the assumption. So I feel like we got really lucky with our partners. And I think part of the reason why we did was because we're women.
I remember, I mean, this is only anecdotal. I had another friend in college who was bi and he was dating a woman, and he was saying it was very hard for him. Even I think we had similar histories, like had always kind of experienced a weird feeling that wasn't really friendship towards the same gender, and were only realized in college, like, oh, that's sexual attraction. That's that feeling. But had already been dating a cis het partner at the time. And he I think he really struggled to accept it in himself more than I did. Because as soon as the thought occurred to me, I was like, oh yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think from what he was saying, he pushed it off for a long time. And then he tried to, you know, tell his partner, and she was okay with it. But I think, like, for example, when we watch movies, I'll frequently say to Tom, like, oh my God, she's so hot. And because, you know, and he's so hot because that's what you do when you see pretty people on a screen.
Mhm.
But he was saying when he did that with his partner, she would kind of like be a little like, oh, God, don't want to hear about that, which I think is, yeah. I mean, it's a blessing, but it's also a curse because I think bi men are not fetishized, you know what word I'm trying to say,
Yes.
fetishized to the same degree that bi women are.
Yeah, definitely. I think the whole bi culture in general, and the reason why bi erasure has become such an issue, is because it's one of those extremes. I'm looking forward to, I love, like, Gen Z, first of all, queerest generation, like, statistically. But I'm so excited for them to be, they're already such a big culture maker, but I think in 20 years, when like they're genuinely the ones with all of the access to the money to make the films and the TV and everything, like, it's going to be so normal just to have a character date like someone of one gender one day and then a gender fluid person the next day. And like, I just think it's going to be less of a big deal.
Yeah.
I was chatting with friends a couple days ago about how, so I watched The Bachelor with Tony. I don't know if you partake in the trash television.
I watch a UK equivalent called Love Island.
Oh gosh, yes. So I was chatting with some friends about how it would be so cool to be part of the casting team, so that we could get not only more queer folks represented, but like different body sizes, more racial diversity, all of these things. And I have faith that in the next 15 or so years, when Gen Z gets the money and the status and whatever, like, we're actually gonna start seeing that, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. I always think about this when I watch shows like The Bachelor or Love Island. They always have, at least on Love Island, they have 5 boys and 5 girls. And I'm like, statistically, I know one y'all is not straight. I know at least one of you is not straight. Who is it? And please, like, show us that on screen.
Like, say something.
Yeah, like just whisper it to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like a small pride flag. We'll grab anything, like a small pride pin on a backpack. We'll take it, which is sad.
Yeah, no.
That'll be something. You sort of slipped in one of your articles that you were bi, hence this whole conversation. And more recently, you've written about Pride Month and corporations. Did you at any point consider not putting that in your writing? Like, how much did you think about whether or not this was an important conversation for, because I know Zulie's like kind of a
pen name.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
A pen name. So you do have the space in the room to be your whole self without worrying about any sort of repercussions. Is kind of a weird word, but did you ever consider not putting that as part of this identity?
No, I don't think I ever did. I guess it's like, I wouldn't. Did you hear about this story written by a transgender woman called Attack Helicopter?
No, but I will.
I sexually identify as an attack helicopter. It was a really good piece of writing, sci-fi. It's hard. I don't think you can find it now, actually, because there's a huge backlash to her writing it, which basically, because it kind of took that joke, you know, like, I identify as an Apache, that's used by, you know, the horrible, anyway. People thought that she might be not a trans woman, and she, because she was trans, she wasn't out. I think there was no history of Isabel Falls, which was her name. You couldn't find any other writing by her online, and so a lot of people took the bad faith argument, and they're like, "What if this isn't real? What if this isn't her?" And I think I read an interview from her really recently where she was like, "Yeah, I had to take the story down because I felt like I tried to pass, or I tried to be a woman in this story, and nobody believed me. They all thought that I was a cis man just pretending." And that must have been, like, I can't imagine how hard that would be. And I think as bi people, I guess I have a little bit of a privilege. I don't have to be an activist. Have you seen this on Twitter? Whenever somebody trans or somebody gay or like Black or any kind of minority says something even vaguely pro that minority, they get quoted in the media as like, oh, trans activist. And they're like,
Right.
I'm not an activist. I'm just a person who is trans. Like, let me be. And I don't have that. Nobody thinks of me as like a bi activist. I'm a writer who is bi. And I guess knowing that has always made me feel like I can't keep that part of myself a secret. I want to know that I want people to know that we're out there, we're everywhere, we're writing stuff that isn't just about sexuality. And I don't know. Sorry, that was a very convoluted way of saying, no, I never considered it. I didn't plan on like releasing it, but I never thought about keeping it secret.
Well, I think that's awesome. I think the idea that it didn't need to be a huge deal is massive, because the bi folks who are maybe still in the closet who come across your writing and will find something like that and have it be something that's just a casual addition and that's important for the story, but it doesn't need to be the biggest thing in the universe, I think is really important. And like if I had seen that at 14, 15 years old, of someone mentioning it without it being this life altering, which it is life altering, but it doesn't need to be the end of the world.
Yeah, I guess in an ideal world it wouldn't be, right? Like it would just be like, oh, I'm het, oh, I'm bi, you know.
Exactly. I think that is crucial. And I also appreciate this idea of like over time, the more you're able to sort of weave that in when it's relevant and put it here and there. If you ever do write like a masterful piece of writing about it, you want to have the history to back up that, like, yes, this is who I am. I'm not jumping on a bandwagon. I'm not claiming that
No, but yeah,
that
those are
woman did, but
I think. Yeah, I mean, look at what happened to Isabel Falls. It's just, yeah, people took the worst possible interpretation. And yeah, I guess I do want to avoid that happening to me if I ever do write about being bi.
I know you're writing a novel right now, and I don't want any spoilers, but like, have you considered throwing in a queer character anywhere, or is there any of that there?
Two of my main characters are bi.
Yes,
I get that representation. Well, I read I've only just now realized that this sounds so silly, but like I love rom-coms as a genre. I like all books, to be honest, as a genre. All fiction books. I can't get it. I've tried. I get into nonfiction, and I never really realized that you could read stuff that didn't only have heterosexual couples. And what's really great is that recently, in the last couple of years, there have been books that are like rom-com books or fantasy books where one or more of the characters aren't straight, and it's not the huge whole point of the story, but it's just a note, and I love that. That's been like I read Red, White, and what's it? It's by Casey. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I can picture the cover in my brain, and I'll put it on the screen. But is it Red, White, and Royal Blue?
Red, White, and Royal Blue. Yeah, because that's another thing. Is I'd never read a book with bi male characters. Sorry, I've got my lit up by Google right now. I'd only ever read female bi characters, and it was really, really good and just nice and wholesome to have a book with male bi characters in it, and just to get that. I love that. That was great.
A really awesome newsletter, Lambda Literary, which is like a awards conference every year, and I'm sure they do a lot of really other amazing good work. But they do every month. They release like next month's most anticipated LGBT fiction books.
Signing up right now.
It's so good. Is there anything that you practice or that you do or that you notice makes you feel empowered in your sexuality? I know that you mentioned like hot person comes on screen, you're comfortable saying that. And I know that every time I get to do that, I feel really good about it. But is there anything else that you sort of allow yourself to enjoy and do that feels like it empowers your sexuality?
I like to read queer romances. That's really nice. And I guess, I don't know, I don't want to sound sort of paternalistic, but I like to buy stuff that's made by queer people. Like I love going on Etsy because people will, I'm just assuming that they're all telling the truth, basically. I'm assuming that nobody's going to lie about being gay. So I like to buy books written by gay people. I like to buy pride paraphernalia. Like I was so stressed out for my first work conference. I wanted people to know that I was bi, but I didn't want to be like, hello, I have an announcement.
Attention everyone.
Yeah. So I ended up just getting a little little heart pin from a queer Etsy seller. And I like supporting movies that are written by or, you know, produced, starred in non-straight people. I don't know. That's kind of how I feel like I'm part of the club, if that makes sense.
The pins in general are so good because even if people aren't going to assume that you are bi, they'll know, like, at least ally, like minimum ally. And
Yeah.
it's so much fun to see somebody light up when they see something that you're wearing that represents their identity. That's the best feeling.
Yeah.
As you continue to exist as a wonderful bi author, how do you feel that this identity is going to impact the rest of your life? Which I know is a big question, but 5, 10, 15 years from now, do you see it sort of staying the same, which is totally cool and what most of my friends answer, or can you see yourself sort of moving into more of an activist space and or doing most of that work through writing? And like, how do you feel like this part of you is going to impact the rest of your life?
I guess I've been waiting to feel until I deserve to write about it, if that makes sense. Like I deserve the place. And I guess there's no reason I couldn't write about being bi or what it means. I not that this is like the oppression Olympics or anything, but I don't feel like I've really suffered for being bi at all, really. So I guess that's also part of why I've hesitated. I guess in the future, I would like to see myself writing more, maybe just for the past me. If Zulie of 2010 had known what signs to watch out for, I could have answered a lot of questions, because I think a lot of people are walking around with question marks over their head and they don't even really realize it. Actually, sorry, no, I've got actually my that, yes, but also I want to write queer media. I want to write books that have queer people in them, because I think that was also part of why I didn't really know and I didn't really realize, and seeing that represented in the media. If I could have read the bi-friendly books that I'm reading nowadays, I want to give that to people. I want to give that feeling that I get today.
Yeah, would have been absolutely massive. And I can actually think of like a small handful of books that could very easily have been queer. Like they did not need to be straight. There's something that I've seen kind of passed around on Twitter a lot that it's folks saying things like, if you at any point Googled, am I gay, then you're probably at least queer. And I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because I don't want people panicking. Like, not that it's not that you should panic, but like I understand that when you're like 12, you're gonna panic. But I think an article idea like that is very fun. Like, especially because everyone is gonna have a different answer. Like, you and I probably have a lot of similar first couple of signs, but the ways that we accepted them and like the timelines, and then they're not going to all be exactly the same. So I do think that more media like that is more important. And it would be so easy to weave into fiction work too.
The other thing that I like to do whenever I want to like indulge in my bi-ness is I go on Tumblr, and there's this blog called Things Bi Girls Do or something like that. And then just like reading through that list of things makes me chuckle and feel warm inside. That's really nice. I'm going to see if I can find the URL.
So good. Have you seen on TikTok I love bisexual TikTok. I was kind of terrified of TikTok because I studied technology and communication culture and technology is like my degree title. So I studied like how these things impact people. And so at first I was very anti-TikTok. I was very scared of it. Yeah. But now, the longer I've been on bi TikTok, the more I'm like, I feel so seen in a way I never have. Did you see the bi pirates? And then the bi wife energy that's happening right now is very fun.
I saw Bi Pirates. I have not seen the Bi Wife energy, but I will check it out because that sounds awesome.
I send it to you. It's so funny.
I think that's another thing. Like if TikTok had been around 10 years ago, I think I would have known a lot sooner as well, because I never said to the algorithm I'm bi, but after a couple of scrolls, I started getting a lot of bi friendly content, and I was like, it knows me.
How did it figure this out?
Yeah, it got me before I got myself.
I am convinced that TikTok thinks I'm a witch, which I'm not, but like it's tempting. The more they show it to me, the more I'm like, that's a very fun life that it looks like. And I think that comes from the bi. They're like, you're alt. This is a demographic that we have nailed down. You must fit these other things if you are bi, which is
do you get any of Frog Talk? I
Oh
got
my
all,
God, so much frog talk.
yeah, me too. I don't know what it is.
It's mushrooms and frogs.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The dream. I don't know what it is about bi people and frogs.
They're
Uh,
so cute.
yeah. But it's like I saw a meme about like how bi women sit on a chair in a certain way. And I was like, I sit on the chair like that. I felt so recognized.
What? So I wanted to ask about the move to
Oh,
Boston.
yeah.
Like, how is that going? And in addition, like, other than introducing like the introductory thing that I can do with you and Robin, like, how are you planning at all? I know we're still in pandemic, but like, are you planning at all to try to sort of weave some queer magic into your friend finding?
I would love to. I don't know how weird I got you. Have you heard of Bumble BFF?
I haven't used it, but I have heard of it.
I was gonna try to do that and just like say that I was bi on my profile because I think bi finds bi.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna try and do that and see. And yeah, I was actually gonna try to maybe join some clubs or societies. I think a lot of people, it's summer, so hopefully we'll be able to meet outdoors
Mm-hmm.
and be safe. But other than that, the move is going pretty well. We're flying out this Wednesday.
Oh my God, I didn't
I
realize it
know,
was
not for the whole move. This is just like a little recce move. So we're gonna go and have a look at some houses and figure out which one we want. Then we're gonna fly back, and then we have to drive up with all of us and the cat stuff and all of our suitcases, etc.
Mhm.
So that's the current plan.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. That's gonna be really cool.
I'm excited / nervous for myself. I've had to turn down a lot of work recently because really cool projects too. It's such a shame. They'll be like, "Oh, I've got this awesome website. This is what I do. I need you to write some copy for it." And I'm like, I cannot give you the time that this project clearly deserves.
Mm-hmm.
Shame.
Yeah, but are you able to give them like but I will be available this day for future?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Situation?
Like, I've like most other people, I've moved a couple of times, and every time I've moved, it takes like 3 times longer than I think it's gonna just like feel settled. So I'll probably have regular access to a laptop in August. Will I be in a place to be doing good content? Probably not.
Does this mean that the distance is over or like close to
Tom
being?
is living with me in my house right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said, yeah, he moved over. God, the visa process took forever. Even with the spousal visa, it took over a year. But he moved in March, and we've been just trying to get a job and move out since then. We finally got a job, and we are finally taking off to Boston. I'm so excited. We've been working towards this for like literally about 4 years since I first wanted to move back to the States. And it's just been like one obstacle after another. And finally here.
That's amazing. I know the feeling of like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So I'm thrilled for you.
Yeah, me too.
What do you see the future in LGBT celebration? Like, what could that look like, both for you personally to continue to like really celebrate who you are, but also
It's hard to say, I guess. Like, I think I'm looking forward to seeing more queer media. That's the thing I really love. Like, I love reading queer books and watching queer movies and TV shows and just seeing, yeah, like I loved movies that are strictly about like gay things instead of straight things. But even more than that, I'm really looking forward to the point where it's not a huge deal and it's just like it's a story between two people, one of whom is gay or one of whom is trans or whatever, something that isn't straight. And that's just part of the story. Or one of the actors is trans and it's not like a huge deal. It's just they're an actor, they're trans, they're an actor, they're cis, I think that's gonna be the point at which we don't have to celebrate that is gonna be a celebration.
definitely.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, you definitely did. Did you get to watch Schitt's Creek?
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. I'm like, I just want more of that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was sick. My mom pushed me to watch that for so long and I resisted because I watched the first episode and I didn't love it.
Mhm.
But she was like, no, honey, you should give this another try. And I finally did. And of course, moms are always right. So I loved it.
Pilots are really hard. Our household has a problem of I give up on a TV show within the first 3 episodes and Tony will finish the season and then he'll tell me how good it is. And then I'm like, oh, well, now you have to watch it with me. So
Yeah.
it all again.
I try to give grace for pilots. Things like have you seen Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So like the first season, everybody's always like, oh, you should watch the first season. The one I have not given a chance to is Breaking Bad because like everybody seems to be like, oh yeah, just give the first 5 seasons a pass and then you really get into it.
The first 5.
I know.
I watched that whole thing. There are 2 episodes and it's like the last final 2 episodes. I think you can watch those without seeing the show and you would still be just as flabbergasted. And those are the ones that have, I think, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like they are very high quality. The episodes leading up to it, like, I don't want to say it was a waste of time because it is a beautiful piece of television, but I would be the same person without having seen it.
So, I hear you. Yeah.
Take from that what you will.
Probably not going to watch the first. It's so much. You need. It's so much of a time commitment as well. Like I just don't want to spend 100 hours. Mm-hmm. I don't have that in me.
The most painful thing is actually giving those 100 hours, like I did with Game of Thrones, and then you get everything thrown in your face.
Oh my God, Game of Thrones. I'm not even. This is not a Game of Thrones podcast. I won't get into that. I had a lot of. So irritated.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from Game of Thrones.
I appreciate your time so much, Zulie. It was really, really cool getting to talk to you. And like, if at any point you ever want to do this again too, I'm super down. I feel like I was craving, like when you sent a newsletter that was basically like, I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now. Like I'm feeling the burnout is coming. And I always feel like getting to chat about something that's not like totally unrelated. It's very important, but like have like a fun conversation around this stuff is always really fun. And I think necessary.
Yeah, it was really nice to have a chat about something that was work adjacent, but not like work. That was nice. Yeah. So thank you for having me on the show, on the channel, on
all of the places, on all of the places,
on the internet. Thank you for hosting me this hour on the internet.